People are blind to reality. They only see what they want to see, but the eyes are useless when the mind is blind. For one reason or another, most refuse to believe the truth even when they can see it with their own eyes. They ask good questions, hard questions, and unfortunately, most simply cannot answer those questions, or the answer requires too much from them, or is far too frightening for them to believe. In this video, it is my goal to show you through historical, scientific, mathematical, visual, governmental facts, along with testimony, to reveal the real truth about the elephant in the sky, a truth hidden in plain sight. Many hidden truths are often unobserved, not invisible. So let's go make some observations. Seeing is believing. The elephant in the sky is what we like to call it. When you go outside during the day, look up. While you are outside, look around. Every time you are outside, you will see with your own eyes, in your own location, this elephant I speak of. You can also easily see the harsh reality at night. Get a bright light, go outside into the dark, and shine it into the dark sky. You can see the air that you're breathing. Make a commitment to yourself to observe your sky and air. You have nothing to lose by being willing to look up. Look up and pay attention. That's where you start. Then you start asking questions. First knee-jerk reaction is to say whatever I'm going to say is a conspiracy theory, that I'm crazy and whatnot. Chemtrails this and chemtrails that. I'm not saying chemtrails, just for the record, so stick around. Second knee-jerk reaction is to say, so what? Look at all this stuff in the sky. You can see it with your own eyes, but all it is water vapor from airplanes. It's contrails, not chemtrails. I argue it's neither. So stick around. And don't worry, I know this is where many people get lost, because people start saying crazy stuff and lots of people have to walk away because you can't stick around and listen to that garbage. That's not what I'm going to do here. We're going to learn facts together from the beginning. Fortunately for us, this won't be too hard because there's a very long, well-documented history. All we have to do is look. July 13th, 1880 is the first patent on record regarding geoengineering. Patent number 230.067. Inventor Daniel Riggs, and it is for a method of precipitating rainfalls. There it is. You can look it up. By 1890, the government was involved and funding experiments in the clouds. The first experiments in rainmaking were virtuous, with plans to help farmers in South Kansas, Texas, South Dakota, and other parts of the country. The early research was done using balloons manufactured by Carl Myers at his balloon farm. Each balloon was 10 feet in diameter and inflated with 1 part oxygen gas, and 2 parts hydrogen gas. Then, small cartridges with 2 wires, were placed into the balloons, and it was sent up into the clouds. Once they were high enough, the electrical charge was sent through the wires, and it exploded the balloon. The 2 gases united, forming water, which serves as the nucleus for precipitation, and boom, you have rain. By 1891, several successful experiments had been carried out, many in the presence of military officers and scientists all over the country. By late 1891, there were new patents for producing rain. Louis Gratham founded a method to improve rainfall by shooting shells of liquid carbonic acid and an explosive, be it gunpowder or dynamite, whatever, into the upper regions of the atmosphere. This caused a sudden chill by rapid evaporation from the acid, and a heavy concussion from the explosive caused the hair to go in different directions. The acid spread out like a sheet of vapor at a very low temperature. This condenses a large area of atmosphere. Very rapidly, a cloud is formed and rain falls upon the earth. November 1892, just 12 years into this emerging category, rainmaking became controversial. It was unpopular among the town people because the explosions went late into the night, and glass and plaster would litter the towns. Mayor Damwood was the first on record to reject rainmaking. He condemned it as unscientific and said anyone participating should be persecuted as a public nuisance. The first publication of chemical concoctions being sent into the air was in 1894 in an interview of Clayton Jewell as an employee of the Chicago Rock and Pacific Railroad companies. Mr. Jewell is said to have discovered the gases that worked and caused rainfall. Mr. Jewell stated that to manufacture the gases, he used metallic sodium, number 1, which is a highly reactive metal, light bluish silver in color, combustible, and it might ignite spontaneously on exposure to moisture in the air. Any contact with human skin will cause irritation, may cause eye burns, skin burns, digestive tract and respiratory tract burns. It's known to react violently with water, giving off a flammable gas which causes an explosion. So that's metallic sodium. Also, ammonia, which is a compound of nitrogen and hydrogen. High levels can burn the skin, mouth, throat, lungs, and eyes. It's found in small levels throughout the world. That's ammonia. Black oxide of manganese, previously used in the production of manganese metals and to dry oil paints. Next on the list is caustic potato ash, aka potassium hydrochloride, or lye, which is a skin irritant and it can cause permanent respiratory damage. Right. Then there's barium, with muriatic acid as the oxide. Barium exposure may lead to difficulty breathing, increased blood pressure, heart rhythm changes, stomach irritation, muscle weakness, changes in nerve reflexes, swelling of the brain and liver, kidney and heart damage, severe skin burns, uncontrollable colic, diarrhea, tremors, paralysis, and it adversely affects several bodily systems, such as the respiratory, cardiovascular, nervous, muscular, digestive, and ocular systems. And last but not least were 2 mystery chemicals, which came from 2 securely locked boxes, which the young rainmaker declared were never opened in the presence of anyone. By 1906, it's commonplace to shoot at the clouds to dispel hailstorms. In almost every continent where agricultural farms are the mainstay of the people, there is systematic use of the storm destroyers. 1912 brings how to control the weather. $100,000 is granted to the universities for experiments with electricity in weather control. 1914, weather made to order. 1916, electric precipitation. 1918, electric rain. 1919, rain with X-rays. By 1923, Popular Science Monthly is regularly weighing in on the subject of rainmaking. In one such publication, they say if the process can be carried out on a large scale and cheaply, its great future will be economic. If it's able to make the desert bloom, The discovery may eventually change geography and history, remake the maps of the world, and alter the future of the human race. Think what man control of the weather will mean for the farmer. Visualize hundreds of airplanes flying high over our parched sections of the country. Normally dry areas will add millions of dollars to the value of crops. The whole article is filled with only positivity. The possibility of this technology being used nefariously seems out of the minds of most in 1923. Out of the minds of the general public, that is, because behind the walls of government, high-ranking officials were already testing out ways to use this tool intended to benefit the world as a weapon of war. By the 1930s, countless hundreds of weather modification experiments had taken place, hundreds of reams of papers written, hundreds of publications, dozens of well-known newspapers and magazines had done stories on it. The 1940s gave rise to skepticism and ridicule, but also snow to order. Snow to order had not quite been perfected yet, but it was in the works. 1947, the Army and GE hook up on a research program to control the weather. Military representatives say their scientists are investigating the practicality of exploding an atomic bomb in the middle of a storm cloud to create a rain of death. Rain of Death was the first publicly published ill intention for weather modification. In an odd coincidence, 7 months after the publication, the 3-day rain of death and fire happened. But that was just coincidence. Enter Project Cirrus. The official narrative of Project Cirrus is as follows. Project Cirrus was the first attempt to modify a hurricane. It was a collaboration of the General Electric Company, the U.S. Army Signal Corps, the Office of Naval Research, and the U.S. Air Force. On October 13th, 1947, on a hurricane that was moving west to east and out to sea, an airplane flew along the rebounds of the hurricane and dropped 80 pounds of crushed dry ice into the clouds. The crew reported pronounced modification of the cloud deck seed. Then the hurricane changed directions and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the seeding and claims that the reversal was caused by human intervention were made. Lawsuits were threatened and Cirrus was canceled officially. The actual details of Project Cirrus were hidden from the public and officially denied by the government for 12 years. It would be 15 years before another official project would be made public. This is the real Project Cirrus, and if you read it, which I have, all 139 kind of really boring pages of it, you will find that it really had very little to do with stopping hurricanes at all. These were the first experiments in cloud seeding and weather manipulation. This report really goes into great detail on exactly who, what, when, where, why, and how this project took place. It goes into detail about all the planes that they used and the equipment and great detail on exactly how they carried out and what the results were of these different techniques. They conducted all kinds of experiments. What happens when you freeze the water, dry ice, ice nucleating chemicals, method for obtaining continuous record of the type of clouds in the sky during the day, methods for detecting sublimation nuclei in the free atmosphere. studies of the effects produced by dry ice seeding of stratus clouds. I mean, it's 139 pages of this, and like I said, in very, very great detail, and a lot of mathematical equations that mean nothing to me really, but I really fully understand exactly, you know, where this got its real start from, and also the romanticizing of it by the military industrial complex, and you know, its humble beginnings with very genuinely good intentions, and then, you know, just really kind of shit on and put in a bad place. This right here I found interesting. This was talking about halos that are often observable, sometimes accompanied by sundogs, i.e. bright spots on a horizontal plane with the sun. So I know we've all seen those halos, and that is a proof. That is literally a proof of the weather modification manipulation taking place in the sky, and that's from silver iodide. It's iodide, I think I say, but that's from silver iodide being sprayed into our atmosphere. These teeny tiny particulates, nanoparticles, okay, are sprayed. These are the, you know, this is a dry ice dispenser is what it's a picture of, because they used to literally pour crushed dry ice by hand, like out the bay of an airplane, and we put it in a cloud. It's pretty crazy, but that's really where it started. And you know, just imagine now where we're at. So this is just one more thing that just proves to you weather modification and manipulation is absolutely a thing. It has a long, deep history. It's very easily verifiable. So any doubts in your mind that weather modification was not a real thing, I hope, you know, this will help set your mind at ease. Or not at ease, it's going to make you crazy, but this really did take place. It really is taking place. Here's, you know, just part of the proof, but it gets deeper, it gets bigger, it goes crazier, and it's the single most important thing happening on the face of the earth today, and you'll learn why as we go along. It's very important that everybody be made aware of this, and we have to do something. So Project Cirrus, you can look it up, the Black Vault, the Black Vault has it, and you can check it out on your own if you would like and read it all. So this is from Melbourne, Australia. It says a RAAF spokesman revealed last night that a plane equipped for rainmaking experiments would arrive at Point Cook Raft Station in the next few days. The plane, which is a Beaufort, is fitted to spray a special secret fluid into the clouds. The base of the fluid is a secret that Melbourne is not giving up. So they're spraying secret chemicals in the clouds. So this is when it really, I think, started to go apeshit crazy. People just really stopped caring about what other people thought. You know, the government was doing its own thing, and it really started getting out of hand. So right around this time, some very important things started to happen. Number one, the idea of weather being used as a weapon of war came to the forefront. Number two, there was legislation. The rain law document took control from the state and gave it to the government when it came to geoengineering. Number three, weather modification pilots, or whatever they're called, started making a lot of money off of this kind of thing. It was 1951 when the government retained full control of any weather modification systems, techniques, projects, so on and so forth. By 1952, there were over 10,000 claims, lawsuits, petitions, protests, complaints, everything from, you know, the sky isn't as blue anymore, to damages done by this spraying of chemicals into the sky. And it was very clear by about 1952 why the government would want to take future experiments underground. Protests and petitions began to grow, calls for regulation and disclosure grew and grew. But rainmaking started making a whole lot of money and became a corporation and a battle. To bring rain or sun, the fight was on publicly. December 12th, 1953, chairman of a new presidential committee on studying weather control, Captain Howard Orville, said the weather can be used as a weapon and someday it may be feasible for the U.S. to induce torrential rains or prolonged droughts in the Soviet Union. 1955, the United States Weather Bureau National Hurricane Research Project was founded and went straight to work. 1956, the New York Supreme Court trial for the flood of 1950 caused by cloud seeding begins. Next, the government created an artificial ionosphere and also Operation Smoke Puff. Operation Smoke Puff set for communications test, Palo Alto, California, April 18th. American rocketeers will soon hurl a gas cloud into the atmosphere 70 miles above the Earth in a spectacular attempt to revolutionize TV and radar communications. The immediate result is likely to be something of value in war, and it could lead to a boom in peacetime communication. Also, it may give scientists some idea of how far they can go towards influencing the life and environment of Earthlings by modifying the atmosphere. Plans for the project, known as Operation Smoke Puff, were disclosed today at Stanford University's Radio Propagation Laboratory. This laboratory will play an important part in the undertaking, along with the Air Force and radio amateurs. Military use of weather control seen. December 12, 1957. Washington, December 11th. President Eisenhower may be advised soon to speed up research on weather control as a defense measure. Some scientists believe control of the weather, if achieved by man on a large scale, could be used as a weapon of war. Staff representatives of the Advisory Committee on Weather Control, a temporary federal agency, said today that the subject may be discussed and accelerated. So really quick, I just want to point out that there was an Advisory Committee on Weather Control, a temporary federal agency, which you can verify. If it wasn't real, there wouldn't be an advisory committee. 1958, it was President Eisenhower that signed a bill into law authorizing the National Science Foundation to research weather control. An advisory committee informed the foundation that they had concluded that no large rainmaking effects can be obtained with technology used to date at the time. He also granted $1,130,000 to 13 weather research groups. 1960. The telltale jet contrails are eliminated using tiny hygroscopic particles. The nature of the particle material is a military secret. Next, they built a mechanism for injecting the material into the exhaust blast of a jet engine. Initial tests left a small whisper of the contrails behind. Later, the military reported that subsequent improvements in the system completely eliminated contrail visibility. I think it's important that we take a moment here and let this sink in deep. So far, we can clearly see that between 1880 and 1960, weather modification was openly discussed, debated, researched, tested, legislated, designed, manufactured, etc. I think we can say matter-of-factly that in the 80 years that we've covered so far of geoengineering or weather modification, or as they used to call it, rainmaking and weather control, it was actually factually taking place. It was well known. It was not a conspiracy theory or a myth. The next huge takeaway is the very fact that contrails were eliminated in 1960 by way of secret chemical infusion, or again in 1988 improved on further by way of injecting chemicals into the exhaust. But this time the chemicals were not secret. And again in 1991, 92, 96, and by 1999, the vast majority of aircraft were and still are produced with high bypass turbofan jet engines, which are almost incapable of producing contrails.
Global geoengineering operations are an undeniable reality. Skies all over the planet are now, almost constantly, completely altered from the lingering, expanding, sky-blocking jet aircraft trails. The official narrative that this is all just condensation is a verifiable lie. Look closely at the characteristics of the jet aircraft dispersion captured in this short video. First, the inside left particulate dispersion nozzle appears to be misaligned. Thus, the dispersion trail is not parallel to the other three dispersions from the aircraft. The atmospheric wake of the aircraft pulls the particulate dispersion into a swirling pattern with an appearance very similar to smoke. Why? Because smoke is a particulate, the same as what is being dispersed from jet aircraft as part of the ongoing global solar radiation management operations. The length and consistency of this sprayed particulate dispersion formation is beyond alarming and is exactly the result that is called for in climate engineering patents. This patent, Stratospheric Welsbach seeding for reduction of global warming, describes exactly what we can observe occurring over our heads day in and day out. To seed the atmosphere with light, scattering, heavy metal particulates in order to deflect some of the sun's incoming thermal radiation. This science publication diagram clearly shows a jet aircraft spraying particulates into the atmosphere. This is so-called solar radiation management, but at what cost to the planet as a whole does this so-called management come? Though climate engineering can create short-term cool-down zones, it comes at the cost of further fueling the overall planetary meltdown that is accelerating by the day. We're told by official sources that the humidity in higher elevations is conducive to, quote, condensation trail formation. This, again, is a blatant lie. Atmospheric humidity plunges to near zero at higher elevations. Higher elevation atmospheric humidity is precipitously declining, making already extremely dry higher elevations even drier. The light-blocking, evaporation-disrupting, moisture-absorbing desiccant materials used in geoengineering operations are fueling this drying out of the upper atmosphere. We're officially told that we should expect to see long, lingering, sun-blocking trails from modern jet engines. Again, also a lie. All commercial aircraft and all military tankers are equipped with a high-bypass turbofan jet engine. This engine is simply a jet-powered fan that's designed for maximum fuel efficiency. 85% of the air that passes through a high-bypass engine is non-combusted, just air. So, to be clear, by its very design, the high-bypass jet engine is nearly incapable of producing any condensation trail except under the rarest and most extreme of circumstances. The conclusion that commercial and military jet aircraft have been retrofitted with spray nozzles is not hypothesis, theory, or speculation. It's a verifiable fact, which photographic and film evidence proves beyond any shadow of a doubt. What about the interiors of jet aircraft? For those who think that the jets in our skies only carry passengers, mail, or consumer goods, think again. What other agendas are the atmospheric spraying programs a part of? The agendas are many. The issue is complex, including over-the-horizon radar enhancement, communications augmentation, weather warfare, and biological testing. Every breath we take contains the toxic fallout from the ongoing climate engineering operations. How long can you hold your breath? Mainstream publications are increasingly being forced to address the question of geoengineering because the climate engineering crimes are now becoming all but impossible to cover up in plain sight. Do your part in the battle to expose and halt the climate engineering insanity. We must reach...
So, odds are that since 1960, every trail, if not every, then at least the majority of every trail that you've seen in the sky was not what you thought it was, not what you were told it was. Since the 60s, you guys. So that's going to conclude this portion of, I guess it's going to be a series. I want to give credit to geoengineeringwatch.org and to weathermodificationhistory.com, which is where every single one of these news articles came from. You guys visit the sites and you can learn more. And let's make the next one, because there's so much more. This is just a very brief history from 1880 to 1960. There's a lot more.